You're about to hear something that most people get completely wrong, and if you've ever wondered whether building muscle after 40 is a lost cause, you'll want to stay until the very end. At some point around your late 30s or early 40s, a quiet fear starts creeping in. You notice workouts feel harder than they used to. Recovery seems slower. Your joints talk back more than they did in your 20s. And then someone says it out loud. Isn't it too late to build muscle now? That question hits deeper than it sounds because it's not just about muscle. It's about aging, relevance, energy, confidence, and whether your best physical years are already behind you. So let's address it honestly, without hype, without miracle promises, and without selling you anything. Yes, you can still build muscle at 40. But the way you do it, the way you think about it, and the expectations you bring into it have to change. In your 20s, progress often feels automatic. You can train hard, eat inconsistently, sleep poorly, and still grow. At 40, your body is less forgiving, but it is not broken. Muscle tissue does not suddenly stop responding to resistance because you had a birthday. Your body still adapts to stress. It still responds to progressive overload. It still builds muscle when you give it a reason to. What changes is the margin for error. Recovery becomes more important than motivation. Sleep becomes a training variable, not a luxury. Consistency matters more than intensity spikes. If you train like you're still 25 but recover like you're 40, that's when people run into trouble. One of the biggest myths is that hormones make muscle growth impossible after 40. Hormonal levels do change gradually with age, but that does not equal zero progress. Men and women in their 40s and beyond still build muscle when training and nutrition are aligned. The body does not stop adapting. It simply adapts more slowly, and slow progress is still progress. Another hard truth is that expectations need to mature. You are unlikely to look exactly like you did at 22, but you can absolutely look stronger, leaner, and more capable than most people your age. And in many cases, stronger than you have ever been, especially if you never trained intelligently before. That's something almost no one talks about. If you are starting later, you are not competing with your past self. You are building a new one. Training at 40 is not about chasing exhaustion. It's about chasing stimulus you can recover from. That means lifting weights with intention, focusing on good technique, leaving a little in the tank more often than you used to. Progressive overload still matters, but it might show up as better form, more control, or more consistent weeks rather than dramatic jumps in weight. Nutrition also changes its role. You cannot outtrain poor eating anymore. Protein intake becomes more important for supporting muscle repair. Calories matter, but so does food quality. This is not about extreme diets. It's about giving your body enough building material to respond to training. And no, you don't need a perfect meal plan or exotic supplements. You need consistency over time. Recovery is where many people over 40 either win or lose. Sleep is no longer optional if muscle growth is the goal. Stress management becomes part of training, whether you acknowledge it or not. If life stress is high, your training needs to respect that reality. More is not always better anymore. Better is better. There's also a psychological shift that happens around this age. In your 20s, motivation often comes from wanting to look good. At 40, it often comes from wanting to feel capable, strong enough to move well, resilient enough to avoid injury, confident enough to trust your body again. That mindset change is powerful because it keeps people training long enough to actually see results. And here's something rarely said out loud. Building muscle at 40 often creates better long-term results than reckless training in youth because you're forced to train smarter. You're forced to listen to your body. You're forced to value longevity over ego. That's not a disadvantage. That's an upgrade. If you're still watching this, you already care more than most people. And that alone puts you ahead. If this kind of honest, no-hype fitness discussion helps you, the single biggest way you can support this channel is by subscribing. That genuinely helps more than anything else. There are no courses to sell here, no programs being pushed, no secret method behind a paywall. Just clear, realistic conversations about fitness, strength, and getting better as you age. So can you still build muscle at 40? Yes, but the real question is whether you're willing to train with patience instead of ego. Whether you're willing to recover as hard as you train. Whether you're willing to play the long game instead of chasing quick wins. If you are, your strongest years may not be behind you at all. They may just be starting.